All right, welcome everyone to U.S.CAD Infrastructure Tuesday. And today we are going to be discussing civil planning with native GIS features in Civil 3D. The goal here is just to introduce you guys to all of the GIS features that we think are useful within the Civil 3D environment. But we'll have an agenda and go over that here in just a minute. These are just me and my team. Together, we have over 100 years of industry experience. I'm about 24 plus years of industry experience. And like I said, these are just other members of my team. This is me. I am KaDe King, and I am a U.S.CAD Senior Technical Specialist. My first version of AutoCAD was 2.5 in 1987. And this is my email address, how you can get a hold of me. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. You can also find our U.S.CAD infrastructure universe at uscad.com. And there's an infrastructure universe under resources. So I've about 32 plus years of industry experience total, a little bit of civil experience, well, quite a bit actually. This is just the industry experience that I worked for a natural gas pipeline company. And like I said, I'm a senior technical specialist with U.S.CAD. I have been with U.S.CAD. In fact, my 20th anniversary is coming up here in about 10 days. So, okay, so here's our agenda for today, today's goal. What we intend to accomplish today, we want to see how to create connections with various types of GIS data. We're going to learn how to work with shapefiles and the difference between actually importing them and drag and dropping them, and take a look at some of the interface differences. We're going to look at understanding how the feature layers work, and you'll understand more about this if you haven't used this before as we go through. We'll look at how you can import and export GIS data as Civil 3D objects. And last but not least, we'll take a look at how to stylize GIS data that you are working with. What you need to start, you need Civil 3D and you need GIS data. That's really all you need. There is no additional software that has to be installed. Those are your two pieces. And just so you know, if you have AutoCAD Map, you can run all of what I'm going to show with AutoCAD Map as well. So even if you only had AutoCAD Map installed, you can still work that way as well. Now, of course, the idea here is to use Civil 3D because that's the core software a lot of civil engineers use. For those of you who don't know, Civil 3D is actually built on two products. It has AutoCAD built in it, and it also has AutoCAD Map built into it. So Civil 3D is all three products. It is Civil 3D, it is AutoCAD Map 3D, and it is AutoCAD. All three products within one product. So if you just have AutoCAD, you can't do this. If you have AutoCAD Map, you can. And then, of course, if you have Civil 3D, then you have all three, but then you can, of course, work with your civil engineering tools. I'm going to go ahead and stop my slideshow here for just a minute. And we're going to jump into Civil 3D. And let me make sure that we are still seeing my screen. Yeah, I think we're good to go there. All right. So like I said, we're going to start just by, I'm in Civil 3D 2022. You guys may have various versions of Civil 3D, but all of these tools should work in whatever version of Civil 3D you are running, okay? So I'm not doing anything that's super new or fancy or anything like that. Everything we're doing is available in all the versions of Civil 3D that I think everybody's probably using. I'd be surprised if we have anybody on anything too much older than 2018, but we may still have some people on 2016, but once again, still the same features. So we're going to start here with the easiest part of this whole thing, and that is understanding how to get the AutoCAD Map workspace instead of being in the Civil 3D workspace. Now, what I'm going to tell you is there are tools that you can type or get to without switching out of the Civil 3D interface, but it's kind of nice to know how to get to the map interface if you need it. So down here at the bottom, we have a workspace tool. Now, most of you might have that up at the top as well. I turn mine off because I just don't like having the workspace tool in two places, kind of a waste of space in my opinion. So I use this little gear down at the bottom, and I'm in the Civil 3D workspace right now, but I'm going to switch to planning and analysis. Planning and analysis is the AutoCAD Map interface. If you were to choose one of the two middle ones, those are your AutoCAD interfaces. So this is plain AutoCAD 2D, and this is plain AutoCAD 3D modeling. But I'm going to go ahead and switch to the Map 3D interface just to get us started. Now, one of the things that happens first when you get into this interface is that oftentimes it will not have this task pane showing. I feel lucky that it's showing up right now, but if for some reason when you get into the map interface you don't have this task pane showing, you can go to the View tab, and then under the View tab you have your map task pane here. And even if that shows it's on, sometimes it won't show. So just turn it off and turn it back on again until it kind of clicks in there. So that's kind of critical. Now I am going to jump back just for a second back to Civil 3D because I want to show you, if you are in the Civil 3D interface, how can I get that palette? I mean, we have our Civil 3D tool space, and I'm going to minimize that here just to get it out of my way. And then I'm going to come in, and if you take a look here, there is a palette for task pane. And I'm trying to remember if they should have it here. That's the connect. Maybe not, but what is it called? Map task pane, I believe it is. And I can just tell it, that's the tab. Anyway, my brain is escaping me right now on what the typed in. I know it's like task pane or something like that, but there is a typed command you can get to it. It might even be under view over here and palettes. I might be able to find it in here somewhere. I'm thinking, oh, there it is right there. So let me get back home again. I just skipped over it. It's right there. I knew it was in one of those. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that from there, and I can turn that on. And map W space is the command. There we go. I love AutoCAD, how it shows us things that we can't remember. Something that we might have said 30 times, and then there it is. So awesome. Map W space is our command. So that is the little palette for it if you want to launch it and stay in your Civil 3D environment. I am going to go ahead and close that and switch back to my planning and analysis workspace. And I'll anchor my properties palette, and there's my task pane again. Okay, so why do we care about the task pane? And some of you might be like, well, what the heck is this task pane? The task pane is the control board. Like we have the tool space in Civil 3D, the task pane is the main control board for Map 3D, all right? It allows us to access all of the different types of data that we might want for GIS. So what the first thing I'm going to demonstrate here is how you can use a tool that we call Connect. And the Connect tool can be found on the Home tab in the upper left corner. It can also be found on the task pane if you click on Data and then Connect to Data. And when I click this, it opens up a palette, which is the Data Connections palette. And it shows me all of the various type of data connections that AutoCAD Map or Civil 3D by proxy can connect to. Now, just so you know, and this is kind of and a lot of people don't know this, you can actually add additional connection tools. You'll notice this says data connections by provider, and this list looks like it could be added onto here. Now, I can't add it on here, but there is an open GIS forum where you can go and download plugins to create additional data connections. Excuse me. All right, so I wanted to show that first. Now, I'm going to turn this off, and I'm going to show you a couple of things here. I'm going to turn this off and I'll come back to it in just a minute. The first thing you really want to do before you start creating connections to your GIS data is to establish a coordinate system in your drawing. Now, if we have a coordinate system already assigned in Civil 3D, in our Civil 3D file, that's great, but there's actually two tools to do this. And sometimes what I've experienced is sometimes it doesn't always pick up the Civil 3D one properly. So I always like to just double check and make sure that I have a coordinate system assigned. This particular drawing, I know I haven't assigned it in the Civil project yet. So I am going to come in and go to the Map Setup tab, and there's a tool called Assign here. The actual name of the command is Map CS Assign. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and this is going to open up my coordinate system dialog box. Now, if you came in here and you had a coordinate system already assigned in your Civil 3D file, it may populate, and this may be specific to the version, but if it doesn't, for whatever reason, you do want to go here to this box and make sure it's assigned. I'm just going to type in a code that I know I want. So I'm going to use a code. I know the code for this one. This is an Oregon State Plane system, NAT 83 Oregon State Plane, and there it's in U.S. Survey Foot. So here's the coordinate system, and I'm going to assign that coordinate system to this drawing. Now that I've assigned the coordinate system, you'll notice that on the geolocation tab, this tab just popped up and it's blue and it's populated. And that's because, and I think you guys probably may already be using this. If you're not, as soon as you assign a coordinate system, you can turn on geolocation, and then you can turn on Bing Maps. So this is Bing Maps. I'm not going to show it right now. This is actually just AutoCAD functionality, Civil 3D functionality, map. It's all built in to the base product. So if you haven't used that before, great little tool, but it does work as soon as you assign a coordinate system. Now that I have a coordinate system assigned, I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate if I were to drag and drop a file. So I'm going to demonstrate that. Let me get to my folder here, and oh, it looks like I have it. There it is. Wrong folder. All right. Okay, I had it, but now I got to find it again. I'll be quick though here. And I want this folder. All right, so here's my my folder, and what I want to show you is that I can take really any file, like a shape file or whatever I might have, and I can physically just drag and drop it into my drawing, and it will show me, it'll bring that file in to my file as a data connection. All right. Now, you may not have really understood what happened there, but just so you know, if you can't figure out anything else, dragging and dropping it will automatically add it as a data connected file. Now, let's talk about just for a second what we just did. What we actually did was create a connection to the shapefile. We did not import the shapefile. Can Civil 3D do that? Yes, I can type in GIS import, and I can import, or map import, sorry. I can type in map import, and I can import GIS data directly into my CAD file and bring it in as CAD entities. That is not the same thing as what I just did. What I just did was create a connection to the actual shape file. So any changes I make are going to update the shape file directly. Does that make sense? Even though I'm in this DWG file, it is not saving, it's going to save the connection, but any changes I make are also updating to the shape file. Pretty cool. So if you need the data as AutoCAD data, Civil 3D data, whatever, you can use the map import command to directly import it. And that's been around almost since the beginning, well, since before the beginning of AutoCAD Map, before it was even AutoCAD Map. There was the original product was called AutoCAD Data Extension. And I remember having training on AutoCAD Data Extension in the early 90s. So that's how long this product has been around. But love the drag and drop. That's really great. Now, in addition to drag and drop, I can also go and click that connect button, and I can click add a shape connection, and I can give it a name. So let's say this one is going to be parcels. So I'm just going to name it parcels. And when you're using the drag and drop, it automatically names it whatever the name of the file is. I'm going to go ahead and browse though, and I'll go ahead and get my parcels here. And I'm going to connect to these parcels. And then I'm going to add those into the map. And probably the biggest difference between the drag and drop and this is that you'll be able to see the coordinate system that these were originally on as they're coming in. And you can also choose to add to a map with a query, meaning that you can control exactly what part of that you bring in, and you don't automatically get the whole thing. So the biggest difference between the drag and drop and using this method here is that you have more control over what happens. And you can also fully see the coordinate systems of both files. Here's my file, and here's the coordinate system of these. And just so you know, it is automatically it's automatically converting this coordinate system to this. So it's transposing it, or it's I'm trying to remember the word, transforming it. It's automatically transforming from one coordinate system to to the other. That is the Map 3D technology at work there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click add to map, and it just added my parcels in here into there, and you can see my contours kind of behind that in another color in the background there. So I could continue this, but I think it's fairly straightforward what's happening here. I think probably the easiest thing about this is if you had other pieces in here, like I have contours, I have parcels, I have a pipe network, and I have, oh, looks like I have a streets. Let's grab some streets. I'm just going to drag and drop these in. You can see how easy that is. And then you can see that as I'm bringing these in, it's creating this list of feature layers on the side. So this list of feature layers is basically each shape file, and I can come in and turn these on and off as I'd like. So if I don't want to see parcels, I can just turn off the parcels. Oops, I turned it off and then on again. I can turn off the parcels just like that. Or if I don't need to see these contours, I can turn those off. So really, I get to choose what data is showing. Even though I've already connected it, I can, turn that on and off. These are called your feature layers. Now, these also do have a draw order, and you'll notice up here at the top, it has groups and it has draw order. If I click on draw order, I can actually grab this and say, I want these parcels in the back. So I can move the parcels to the back, and now these pieces are in the front there, and they're in front of the parcel data. I can also control the parcel data a little more with styles, and I'm going to come back and show you guys that. Like if I want to make this more transparent, I can do that. All right, so pretty cool stuff, and that is this wonderful display manager task pane tool that allows me to come in and connect to data. I want to talk about other types of connections for just a minute. So right now I've done some shape connections, but I want you to know that no matter what organization you're with, depending on the type of data you have, you may want to connect to other types of data, and other organizations or various organizations may use, like for example, a database type data. So for example, it is pretty common to have an ArcGIS database on site. Like if you work for a city or a county or some kind of municipal government, you may have an ArcGIS connection that you can tap into at your office. And you can use that, like you may have an ArcSDE Enterprise, that's usually what it is. And you, of course, would set this up based on data from your GIS group or your IT group. They can link you up to that ArcSDE Enterprise data. And you can do both ArcGIS either from a personal geo database or from an SDE Enterprise database. We also have an ArcGIS online connection. And in addition, this will show you right here, it says, to set up a new ArcGIS online connection, please use the Map ArcGIS connector tool. and you can see instructions here on how to get to it. If I look on my home tab right here on my ribbon that I'm on and I move all the way to the right, you can see right here that I have the Autodesk connector for ArcGIS. I'm going to briefly show you this. I don't have a live connection, but I can go in as a guest and just give you an introduction to what it does. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this Autodesk connector for ArcGIS. And instead of trying to log in, I'm just going to go ahead and access it as a guest, just so you can see the interface. So basically the idea is you come in and you search by location. So if I said Disneyland, and it does have a search engine built into it, so I can say I want Disneyland, Anaheim, California, and it's going to bring that up. And I can zoom in or pan around and look at this. This is the ArcGIS online connector, and it has different tools. You can have it, you can draw a rectangle to kind of show your area of interest, or you can have it show your current map extents. And then once you have that done there, so let's say I go ahead and say use the current map extents, and then I'll go ahead and let me just make a window. Go like that, there we go. So what I want to show you is this is just some public data. And there may not be any data here that relates to Disneyland, all right? But you can see this is all publicly available data, and I can work through and find data. Obviously, if you are working in your own ArcGIS, you will have your data that's available to you. But I love that this tool even exists, that we have this online Autodesk connector for ArcGIS. I'm just going to go ahead and close that, but I wanted you guys to see how you would do that, and you can also publish to that. Very useful to work with. Now, in here, so we've looked at all this already. I'm going to go ahead and close that, and let's move on to our next kind of thing that we want to discuss on our agenda. So let me pull up. I'll just move this over to the side here. Got stuff in my way. You guys know how that goes. Luckily, I have 3 monitors, So the next thing I want to show you, we talked a little bit about how this works between the groups and the draw order, and the draw order will control, what is on top versus what's on bottom and so on. In these feature layers, these are our feature layers. You can right click on these feature layers. So for example, if I right click on the parcels feature layer, I can edit the connection, I can edit the style, I can show a data table if there's a data table connected to it. So for example, on this one, if I click show data table, they're going to let it generate the data table here for it. This is a database that's connected to these. And if I select one of these parcels, you can see it highlights it in the data table and tells me, okay, that's, here's the parcel ID number. That's how many acres it has. That's the address. Oh, that's the area there. Acres and area. We have an assessor ID, total square foot. We have all of the different data is associated if it's a certain fire district or what flood district or what flood zone it is, cities and all of the data that we would have populated in a parcel database. And you can see this is quite extensive. It even has the owner's information and all of that. So very detailed. This is a pretty big database that's connected to it. And all I have to do is click on, I can hit escape in between these, but if I click on a new one, you can see it's showing that one. So if this is live access to the database that's connected to the shapefile. Now, I'm going to go ahead and close this. So I'm just going to use the X in the upper left-hand corner here to close that. But I want to show you also, there you can see that's almost limitless in how you work with this. You can actually edit this and then check that feature into the shapefile. And there is a full menu for working with that, and that is the feature edit tab up here at the top. It automatically it'll automatically check out the pieces that I select, and then I can check these in and then save them. Checking them in saves them to the shapefile. So it has a lot of tools to actually work with and manipulate this GIS data if you want to work natively with the shapefile and not have to import and export back and forth between a shapefile. So very easy to do there. You can also create new features directly in the shapefile using these creation tools. So very, very powerful tools for working directly in GIS data. Other things that we have on here is I can also edit the style. And this is the stylization. I was going to go over this last, but I think since we're right here, this seems like a good flow to show you guys what we're doing here. So I'm going to click Edit Style. And it opens up a palette called the Style Editor. And this will change depending on which layer, which feature layer you grab here. So if I were to use contours, it would give me different controls than if I'm going with like parcels where it's like a fill. Now, very easy to use. There is I know it looks complex, but if you actually just come down to the bottom and I can click on the style here, and I can change the boundary, the border, or the fill. So this is the border, this is the fill, and this says it's a solid. I can change it if I don't want a solid to a pattern. I can set the color that I want it to use in here. It's pretty easy to use. So if I look at this, I can also do advanced control from this. Here's the color for this if I didn't want this light blue color. So very easy to use, and here's the transparency. So if I want to change this, I can set the transparency to a higher value. Like if I want it, I think I must have it, I could do it more transparent. So if I said I want it, let's do like 50. So I'll change it to be 50% transparent, and I'll apply that and close this box. And you can now see that that background color is more transparent. Kind of cool, right? So all I did was go in and edit the style. Just so you know, in the styles, you can actually build a theme style. So I could come in and say, hey, I want to do a theme of, let's say, based on, the area, or like the total square footage has bigger lots are going to show, more colors. Or I could do based on the land value. So I can choose, the minimum and the maximum value, and I can set a distribution type, and then I can even set number of rules. So in this case, if I said 5, and then I can even choose a different, style control if I want different colors or whatever. So I can set that. I'm going to leave it because I don't want to mess with it too much right now. But I can even create legend labels and all kinds of things from this. So if I say OK, I'm going to get rid of, I'm going to delete this this one here. Well, just leave it for now. It's not showing anything right now. It's fine. So you can see it. Oh, it took and showed all the land values, the highest land values being this darker color. So I can now see, this is my highest land value, You can see my land values here. You'll notice that it created a little bit of a chart here for me, so I can see what that is. And if I wanted to create a legend from this data, I can certainly do that here by going in and telling it I want to add a legend. And I can do that using, there's a tools. Let me find it here. I was thinking it was under tools. I'm probably create, nope, that's parcels. I'm gonna have to come back to it because I can't remember where it is off the top of my head right now. But you can generate a legend directly off of the data. So and it's actually pretty easy to do. I swear it was in tools, but I'm probably just missing it somewhere. Anyway, all right. Let's see here. Now, I do see that we have some questions that are coming in, or I see one question that's come in, so I want to address that. Let me see if I can pull this expanded area out or whatever. There we go. Oh, several questions, lots of questions. Okay. I see somebody told me map W space. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Tom. And I'll come back. I should have grabbed these questions up earlier, but hopefully you guys see the difference. Yeah, I must have repeated myself, Ruben, even though I didn't see your question. So I see some other questions that I'm going to come back to on contours. I see another question from Chris Brenton. He's asking, if you have a shapefile that is 100 megabytes when connecting, then what will the size of the CAD file be? It's actually just a linked, it's like an XREF almost, okay? I hate to call it an XREF because it's not an XREF, but it's not embedded in the file. It's just a link to the data, so it's not going to increase the file size very much, which is what I really love about this. You're not going to have a bunch of, it's not going to be massive. So I see Dan Foster asked, how do you import data that comes in GDB files? And that would be using that connected data. And you might have already figured this out, but if I went to that ArcGIS connection and I go file personal GDB, I can go and find that that GDB file here and connect to it. So hopefully you saw that. And then are the areas based on the database? It's yes, they're based on the database. Yeah. So a question from Joel, he's asking, if I change the workspace back to Civil 3D, will the drawing look the same as in Map 3D? Yes, it's embedded in the program. It's part of Civil 3D. And then I have a question, does linking, connecting a shapefile to a drawing create a lock on that shapefile? I believe so, but because it's I think you can have multiple people connect. In fact, I'm almost positive you can have multiple people connecting to the file at the same time. But I'm gonna have to come back to that question. And the same with your question to Ruben. I'll come back to that. All right, so let's take a look. Let's continue on here because I don't want to run out of time for all the little pieces I want to show you guys. So one thing I want to point out that I think is kind of obvious here is, yeah, good question, Tom. I'll definitely come back to it. And I also have these questions as a whole. So if I need to, I can email you after the event, or we can answer some of these questions in a follow-up email to all the attendees. So. Or actually, since Ron, if you're, I don't know, Ron, can you answer? Maybe you can just post a question as an answer. But we have Ron Couillard on the event as well. And maybe Ron, if you have any of the answers to these questions while I'm moving on, you can post some questions as answers if you want. So. I don't know how we do that. Maybe we can make Ron maybe Perla, you could make Ron a presenter. Okay. All right, well, we'll maybe see if we can make Ron a presenter and have him answer some questions while I'm moving on. So the next thing that I want to show you guys or talk about just for a minute is, and I got distracted with this with the question, but I wanted to mention that if you have GIS data that isn't in your coordinate system and you want to convert that and actually make a CAD file, if you just simply have the current file with the coordinate system assigned to it, of course, it's going to automatically translate it. But that map import tool also has the ability to work with the current coordinate system and the other data. So if I were to come in here and use map import, and I just want to briefly show this, let me find a shape file here. If I were to grab this contours data and click OK, when I use the map import tool, it's actually going to show me the coordinate system that that file is using. And it's going to, when I import it, it should automatically convert over to my current system. All right, so you should be able to do that. Normally, I would open a blank AutoCAD file, a blank file, and then I would do that in a blank file and resave that file with a new name showing the correct coordinate system. So you can certainly do that. However, I encourage you as much as possible to use these connections, the drag and drop, because you are not actually embedding the data in your file. Your file sizes aren't going to be as large. If you're using map import, it's actually importing and converting the data to AutoCAD data. And the file sizes are going to balloon because there's databases attached. I haven't got the database connected here, but if I did, it would import the data as object data as well. So a lot of stuff going on there with this import that you may not want. You may want it, but if you can avoid it, if you're just needing to view the data and print the data, you can use this method instead, the connection tools instead. I'm going to cancel out of that. And I'm going to open another file here. I want to show you guys some of the Civil 3D creation and exporting tools that are available. So you can create surfaces and pipe networks from GIS data without having to import the data, all right? So you can create Civil 3D surfaces and pipe networks from GIS data without having to import it. I have created just a blank file from the standard NCS template, and I'm gonna go ahead and switch back to the Civil 3D workspace to show this part. And I love how stuff moves around, but that's all right. I should save my settings and I'll get my tool space. I don't need the tool space right now. Just leave that minimized there. So what I'm going to do is come in and actually, now let me point this out. If I go to the prospector, notice how I don't have any surfaces and I don't have any pipe networks. All right, I just want to show you there's nothing in here. And then I'm going to go to our ribbon here and I'm going to go to create ground data. And I'm going to click import or create surface. Where's my tool? Create design surfaces. There we go. Create surface from GIS data. That's what I wanted. So create surface from GIS data. And then it'll come in and show me the surface build tool from GIS data here. And I can come in and set a name for the surface. I'll just leave it as is here. You can name it whatever you want to name it. Oh, maybe I want to name it EG for existing ground or whatever. And then I'm going to go ahead and click connect to data, and it's going to ask me which type of data source I have. These are the 3 types of data sources that Civil 3D will let you build a surface from. I am going to use a shapefile since I don't have an Oracle database connection or an ArcSDE database connection at this time. So I'm going to browse to my shapefile. And let's get the contour shapefile. I think that's going to have the data I want for my surface. And then I'm just going to click log in. I don't really need to actually log into anything, but that's how you access it. And then I'm going to go ahead and see this, and it'll show the coordinate system that I'm in right now. And oh, let me get, well, I'll just let it go straight over. I could have it converted if I didn't set a coordinate system on this one before I started, which I should have, but you can see here that it's showing that there is no current coordinate system, which what it means it's going to be just in this coordinate system. And I'll go ahead and hit next. It's going to ask me if I want to define a particular area of interest. And, you know, I'm just going to just hit next there. And then it's going to ask me how I want to map the data. So I think I want to disable that one. No, I'll disable that because I don't really have anything on my screen to show it. I'll come back here. And then what I'm going to do to map this is I'm going to go ahead and use the GIS elevation property. And I'm going to tell it to use the Civil 3D elevation, basically matching that up. And then when I'm ready, I'm just going to go ahead and click finish. And you're going to see some break line errors because of the surface settings. I'm just going to go ahead and clear this. There's my surface that it built. If we look at the tool space, you can see under surfaces that I now have a surface called EG. that was defined based on contours. And then of course there's some minor edits based on the settings that I currently have set there. So there's my surface that was built from those contours that I had. Now I'm going to go into the Insert tab, and then under the Import panel here, I'm going to go to this this piece here, and you can see that we have ability to import all kinds of data. But if I click Import GIS Data, this can also create additional types of GIS data. So I'll click here. And this is more of, you can see that the other types is pipe networks. So I don't know why they don't just have import pipe networks, but I think they're hoping that at some point there may be some other additional data that you can import. But if I come in and I'm going to browse to get a pipe network, and I do have a pipe file here, grab that. Then I'm going to go ahead and click Connect. And then the options, it's going to ask me what I want to name it. And I think this is a sewer pipe network, so I'll just say sanitary sewer. I can give it a description. I can choose a parts list. I can set a surface. I can set label styles. Let's say I want dated with connected pipes. And I can set my pipe label style. Let's say a length, description, and slope. I'll hit next. Now, this is the fun part here. Basically, what I'm going to do is come in and set up how I want this to work here. So this is the schema, the coordinate system. You can see the coordinate system here. And I'm just going to let it use that one and then go to the next, which is the data mapping. Actually, this is the complex part, not this one. This is just showing your coordinates. I'm going to go to the data mapping for the pipes. Now, this is where it can get a little bit complex. So if you need to come back to this, we will be providing a recording of this, by the way. So I can come in and I can set the pipes feature class. I can set the pipe shape that I want, and I'm going to click Add to add that in. So I'm choosing the feature class, the shape, and then I'm adding that in. And then under this box here, you can see there's all kinds of controls for how this is going to be managed. Under geometry for the start structure, I'm going to tell it to show the structure start data. Basically, there's a data field that was imported that can show that. And for the end of the structure, I'm going to use structure end. The slope already went to slope. For the start invert elevation, I'm going to give it start invert. And then for the end invert elevation, I'm going to give it end invert. I'm going to leave those, but I'll jump down to part data and let me show the inner diameter, and where this one is going to be the inside diameter. I'm basically matching up imported data to the Civil 3D pipe properties. And I think we have one more thing we need to do. I'm going to do our structures. So I'm going to go ahead and go down to the data mapping for structures. And for my structures, I don't know why this isn't letting me add it, but I'll go on from there. Talk about this more later. So I'm not sure why it's not letting me do this, but for some reason this is grayed out. Maybe I don't have structures in the file that I exported. Certainly possible. Anyway, I'll just skip past it, but it's basically the same. You would set your structures. You get things like the rim elevation, the sump elevation, and so on. We have query options. I can tell it just to import all of the GIS data or maybe what I want from. And then there's actual cleanup tools if you want to get rid of unlinked pipe, unlinked structures, and so on. You can set a tolerance for snapping these components. I'm just going to go ahead and finish that. And those are my break line errors. Let's just clear all the events and bring that out. And you can see there's a pipe network that I brought in. I must not have had structures in there, but you can see it did do that. And I want to show you, if I look at the actual pipe networks, that it did generate that actual pipe network that I told it to generate. It has pipes doesn't have structures, and that is because I didn't have structures. So, but you can see there that I do have pipes in there. All right. Now, if you have a Civil 3D objects that you need to export to GIS, we can do that as well. I'm going to go ahead and open another file that already has some data in it, and I'm going to export this data out to GIS. Now, I'm just going to ignore any XREFs that I have here. You guys know that box really well, right? That unresolved references. I think we all are pretty familiar with that. I'm going to go to the Output tab in Civil 3D. And under the Output tab, I'm going to export Civil 3D objects to SDF. What you'll see here is I have this Export Civil Objects to SDF. Now, this is probably the easiest way to export to a GIS. And I'm going to tell you something. Even if you don't know what an SDF is, any GIS can import using this file format. So if you give them an SDF file, it's almost identical to giving them shape files. The only difference is that this is it's automatically this SDF can save everything into one file versus having to save individual files. I know there's a newer shape file type that lets you do multiples in one, but this is what you're going to use. So if I click Export Civil Objects to SDF, it's going to ask me, you know, what's the SDF file name that I want to send it to. And I can go and browse here, go to my folder, and let's say I want to put this, I'll just put it in this main data set folder. And let's see what I want to name this. I'll just leave it as that. I'll save that. And it's showing the coordinate system the drawing is currently in, what I have there, and then I'm going to pick OK. And it's now taken all of those pieces. Let me show the folder here. And let's see. So export Civil 3D objects. You can see I have an SDF file there. Now to show you the data in that SDF file, I'm just going to come in and I'm just going to create a new drawing to put that in. I'll just open just a Civil 3D drawing, doesn't really matter. I could even just use a blank AutoCAD file. It really doesn't matter. In fact, I'm just going to use a blank AutoCAD template to do this. And turn off the ugly grid first. And my system's thinking for just a second here. There we go. And now I'm going to go into the map W space. Oops. Map W space. There we go. Turn that on. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to drag and drop it just because that's easy, right? So I don't even need that W space open. I'm just going to grab and drag this and drop this in. But it's nice to see this because you can see all of the various components. So it got structures, points, pipes, parcels, alignments. And so all of that data is available here. If I were to now look at, I mean, we're not dealing with Civil 3D, right? These are just the GIS. So like I exported it to GIS. This is the Civil 3D objects exported to GIS. So if you work with a department that's a GIS department and they ask you to send you your Civil 3D data as a GIS file, I would highly suggest using this Export Civil Objects to SDF. They may tell you, oh, I need a shape file. They can use the SDF. It works exactly like shape. It stores the same data. I think they'll be perfectly happy with this file type. So give it a try. And certainly, though, it is possible to convert SDF to shapefile data. We have nowhere near enough time for me to show you how to do that inside, but AutoCAD Map can do that. It can bulk copy, and that is the term that I'm going to use because that's the term Map uses. It can do a bulk copy from one type of file to another. So I could create a new shape file and bulk copy all of the SDF data into a shape file. But like I said, your GIS people will be able to use it in SDF. So anyway, that just gives us a little bit of an idea of how that works. Now, I know there's a lot of questions. I'm going to see if there's any I can answer right off the bat. But if not, what I'll do is I will create a list of the questions that we need answered, and then we'll send them out in a follow-up email. So I see, can you show how to create a shapefile to export a pipe network? I think we just answered that question, probably that you want to go to an SDF. And then if I needed to, if I was using the task pane, I can actually do a bulk copy from one to another. Okay, so like I said, we don't have time to get into that today, but the key is bulk copy. And I think the rest of the questions I haven't answered, we are going to do in a follow-up because I'm out of time and we have a couple of things we need to finish up with. So I'm going to go ahead and come back to our slideshow. And I love that it always swaps these for me. There we go. All right. So I want to tell you guys that one of the things that U.S.CAD offers, and just so you guys know, I'm actually doing one of these next Thursday for one of the Air Force bases in Vegas. And I'll be doing one of these personalized workshops on using GIS within Civil 3D. And the idea is we have two options. Option one is we can personalize this workshop with your file-based data, and you choose the topics you'd like to cover. We can provide you with an agenda and you can pick what you want. And you can see the prices here for it. That's straight out what the price is. If it's in person, we like to limit to about 10 people max. But over online, we do about 15 so we can manage questions a little easier. But this one we would personalize with your data and you choose the topics you'd like to cover. We also have the personalized without your data. And the reason we offer this is that it's almost impossible for us to replicate your environment in our organization. So for example, if we were trying to connect to your ArcSD8 database, that's probably not likely. But we can at least show you where the tools are if that's something you'd like to do. So you can see the two options we have there. Now, your team can be as small as a 4-person group. If you guys have, the idea would be to figure out what the workflow that you guys need for GIS data, and then and then go from there. And we can talk about, you know, what your workflows are in advance, and then come up with a personalized plan for your group. So, all right. I was hoping we'd see that there's some people here that could use this, because coming from, and just so you guys know, I'm not a salesperson. I'm not interested in that. But I see when I go into organizations and I'm helping them with their CAD stuff, their standards, whatever I'm helping them with, whether we're training on Civil 3D, that oftentimes they don't know how to use the Civil 3D GIS tools and how to use those for their planning projects. They might get how to import. They figured out how to import. Somebody showed them, but it's really nice to know more of a specific workflow. So I'd want to point that out. All right, go ahead and hide that. And then let's go in and do one more. We have another slide here. Let me share this next. Now, I'm just going to go over just a couple of little things. If you've ever missed a U.S.CAD hosted webinar, you can always catch it later if you go online to our website. We do have a video vault on our website where you can watch the recorded webinars. But you can also visit our U.S.CAD events here as well. And then if you haven't yet, sign up to see our webinars and other Infrastructure Universe components by going to uscad.com. And I think it's under resources, and then you can click on Infrastructure Universe from there. You can get to that. These are all of U.S.CAD's locations across the country. And we are we do have quite a few locations in different places, or offices in different places, with people in all of these locations if you need somebody local. So just a little picture there of our big picture, and then you can always contact us as well from here. All right. I just want to say thank you to everyone. I'm going to come back and just back up to my slide just so you guys can see me. You have my video still going, of course, but thank you all for being here today. And if there's anything we can help you with, please let us know. And we will be following up with the questions in a follow-up email. All right. Thank you so much.